Well, Brett Hetherington is an Australian freelance journalist living in Barcelona. He joins me now via Skype. Brett, just take us through the sort of reaction that's come from Barcelona in relation to the attack.
Well, Fauzia, the reaction of most people, I mean, at least initially, there was a lot of panic in the city. Of course, over time, calm has been restored now this morning. The Ramblers area has reopened and business is as normal as it could be, considering the circumstances.
Take us through could you just describe for us the security that was in place at La Ramblas?
Well, there's been a high presence of police for years now. The level of police there, according to some witnesses, was higher yesterday, and that may well have been because of the previous night, the explosion in Alcanar. One report I heard was that the authorities did know that there was a possibility of an attack on the Ramblers, and this is from the CIA a couple of months ago passed on this information. So it is possible that I think the police presence, the security presence was higher than usual. Of course, this is August. In August, most of this part of Europe is on holiday, so this is an area where massive numbers of tourists are, and in summer at this time of year, people are thronging together in places like La Rambla and towards the coast.
As we understand it, this white van mounted the curb. We're just trying to get a sense of what La Rambla is like. Are there wide open spaces? Is it easy for vehicles to gain access to this area?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a pedestrian area, a very wide, long pedestrian area. But on either side of that, there is one lane of traffic going in each direction. So it's an area that would be easy, and obviously was easy, to speed a car through. Be the equivalent of driving through, I don't know, Circular Quay or somewhere like that. Driving through that kind of level of crowd, that kind of density of human beings altogether.
As you say, it is the height of summer, lots of tourists there at the moment, but we also know there is a large expat community there as well. You and your family live in Barcelona. Prior to this, had the expat community been speaking of a possible attack and perhaps made contingency plans?
No, I wouldn't say that was the case. I think anyone who follows the events across Europe and the world, and here we have to include the extremism that was seen in Charlottesville in the US as an example of terrorism. But particularly in Europe, if you live in Europe, you spend time in Europe, you know, because of what's happened in London, what's happened in Germany and France, with similar kinds of attacks, you know these things are theoretically possible, but it's certainly not in the front of anybody's minds in daily life. So that's why there's an element of shock from a lot of people. I'm not particularly surprised myself that this happened. For me, it was only a question of where, from a European point of view, where the next attack was going to happen. And it's just tragic that it's happened, in a place where, I work and go to regularly in that part of the city with parts that are very familiar, and they will look quite different from this day on for myself and a lot of other people.
Brett Hetherington, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thanks, Fauzia.